The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now,
you're live.
Gary.
Happy Tuesday. This is Gary Quackenbush, your host of the Word on Wealth. I really want to appreciate my people that listen to the show. And I've had a lot of people comment this week when they've come in to see me that they appreciate what I'm doing. And when I asked somebody very recently, I said, well, what do you like about the show? And she said, I just like the show. So I love that kind of input. Thank you. I would really like to know what more you would like out of the show, what you would like to hear about, what information I could hand out over the air that would be most helpful to you. It's your time taking the show up, taking my time. It's me taking up your time listening to the show. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Seriously. The number is 888-344-1170. I'm going to open the lines up this whole show, 888-344-1170. If you have questions about wills, trust, power of attorneys, special needs trust, administering a trust, which is handing out the money, accounting for information in the trust, any terms you don't understand, let me have your calls, 888-344-1170. Noah will pick up the line and put you on the air with me, and I'll ask, and you can ask me a question. So 888-344-1170. The first thing I wanted to start out with, I want to talk about charity today, charitable giving, and what is that all about? Because you hear a lot of times people say, oh yeah, I'm giving to charity, I'm getting my charitable deduction, or if you give your car to this particular organization, they'll give you $300 cash. You know, there's a lot of things with charity and nonprofits that are really a big deal. And the true charities that are actually out there, you know, helping less fortunate people that wouldn't otherwise be able to get assistance or help. I think those are great organizations. The nonprofit, public benefit corporations, 501c3, things like that, 501c4s and C5s. Those are all great organizations that are helping provide a service or a product to somebody that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. So with your estate planning, sometimes you're trying to figure out, and if you're trying to figure out, you know, what to do with your money. And I know for a lot of people, that's like, well, Gary, why? I know what I'm going to do with my money. I'm going to give it to my children, or I'm just going to spend it all before I die. And those are good plans. But sometimes we want to do something more, and maybe you have money, maybe you don't have children, or maybe you have a lot of money. You don't want to make it so that your children don't have to work for the rest of their life. Maybe you want to kind of take care of things in a different way. So I wanted to give you 4 reasons why giving to charity in your estate plan is an awesome thing to do. Okay, 4 reasons. 1, it makes estate planning easier to think about, and sometimes even more enjoyable, because you're giving money to a good cause. I talk to people that are looking at it going, well, I want to give money to my kids, but I mean, they already have money and they're doing really well and they don't really need this money. But I do know a couple of charities that really need my money. In fact, I'm on the board of directors, or I'm helping one out or whatever. So I want to give some money to that charity. Okay. Like if you have an affinity for an organization, like most of you know, the organization that I really like to support through my radio show, my law firm, and my the California Society of Tax Consultants, is we try to support Gently Hugged. It's an organization that provides clothing and supplies for babies during the first year of their life, babies who wouldn't otherwise have much at all, if anything, during the first years of their life. If you want to know more about it, you can go to Gently Hugged, like, you know, hugging a bear or hugging a baby, gentlyhugged.org, gentlyhugged.org, or you can go to my website, gqlaw.com, and click on the Gently Hugged little baby icon and learn more about giving to that charity. So we give to that charity. We basically sponsor it several times, you know, a couple times a year, at least, with my tax organization, to try to give some clothing and supplies to that organization. So it makes me feel good. I really like it. So now if I put that in my trust, That would be an interesting thing as well, right? So let's say I give I have a certain amount of money, and let's say I have 2 children. I say, okay, all my money is going to go to my 2 kids. And I think about it, that maybe I have a little more money than that. Maybe I want to do something more rather than just give it to my children because they've got jobs and they're doing well. I'm going to give, 10% to a charity, or 10% to my church, or 1% or 5%, or, or a number, $5,000 or $100,000, whatever money you have available. So number one, it makes estate planning easier to think about because you're not just giving it to somebody that's going to spend it. You're giving it to an organization that will do with it what you want to have done with it, the best thing possible. Number two, it's likely the most important donation you'll ever make. It'll be done after you pass away, but it will likely be the most important one you give. Plus, it might be the biggest. Statistics show that people give 3 times more money to charity after they die than during their lives, which I thought was fascinating. So people are likely to give 3 times more after their death. I think part of it is because they've obviously they don't need the money anymore. They don't need to give any more money because this is what they're going to give. So that's interesting, 3 times more. So you can be part of that. Number 3 is that charities are ready to celebrate you. I know when we have an event and we sponsor Gently Hugged, and we get baby clothes and stuff for the first year of their life, and maybe we'll do diapers or formula or blankets or whatever. Anytime we provide that to like Gently Hugged, we get this thank you letter telling us how many pounds we donated, how many children will help, and just kind of their status report of the company. It's really neat and it feels really good. So charities will do that, and if you do it posthumously, it goes out of your estate to them, then your trustee or your estate representative will receive that letter to your family saying, this is a good thing that your parent did for us when they passed away. And then the 4th thing is that thinking about giving at death can change your life. Okay. It helps you, I believe, kind of adjust the way you're thinking. Because if you are thinking in terms of, hey, let's do a living trust and give some money to charity, then it really manifests your values, like where you put your value and where you put your thoughts. It's always fun to talk about this stuff, but I'd love to hear your questions. 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170. Give me a call. We're going to be here through the top of the hour. This is Gary Quackenbush from GQ Law. We're going to be talking about wills, trust, estate planning, trust administration, and distribution. If you want to talk about other things, that's great. And we're going to talk about a few opportunities that we have to basically donate to charity and all that. So those are the things we're going to be talking about today. So listen up, hang in there. I really appreciate you being along today. I think towards the end, I have this really interesting kind of rules to converse by. It's a little thing I've developed over the years I want to talk to you about. Coming up next here on the Word on Wealth, we've also got the case of the week. So stick around. Case of the week coming up next here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there, filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecos and the Pecos Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecos has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecos Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecos is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecos.com. That's Ken Pecos, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Dennis Prager here.
Eight five five 500 Trust, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com. 855-500 Trust.
Now time for Gary Quackenbush, GQ Law, Case of the Week.
Case of the week. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate it. You love Noah's announcer voice. It's almost like he has his own radio show, like across the county. All right, man. Thank you. Case of the week.
Say what?
Exactly. Okay, here's the situation. The son, so obviously we're talking to mom and dad. Their son has trouble with money, but he is capable of taking care of his own basic needs. His parents provide him a lot of support financially and physically, but they want to leave him money to use for the rest of his life. The problem is that if he inherits money, he'll no longer qualify for the Medi-Cal benefits that he's receiving and the other assistance programs that he enjoys in his situation. All right. I know the solution, and you might too. If he is receiving Medi-Cal, that means that's an income-based program. It's the California state equivalent of the federal Medicaid program. So Medi-Cal requires that you can have a home, a car, and some money. But if you have more than $35 a month of income, or if you inherit money, those things all cause your Medi-Cal benefits to go away. So in this situation, if parents have been supporting him, obviously while they're alive, they are happy doing what they're doing, taking care of their son, but they know when they pass away, their son will no longer have the guidance of, of them basically paying bills on his behalf, like paying for his rent and food and whatever he needs. He's supplementing it with his own, potentially with some money that he's got coming in, but it's not very much at all. So what would happen then when mom and dad die, if they leave money to him directly, even through a living trust, and it says, when we pass away, we want all of our money to go to our children. So they have 2 daughters and the son. The son has these issues. We would refer to him as special needs because of if he's receiving government benefits based on his inability to be able to earn money and support himself financially. So if we set up a regular old trust and a third of the money, whatever that number, let's just say it's $300,000. If that money goes to that child, that $300,000 will cause his Medi-Cal benefits to stop, which means that now he'll have to pay for, his own medical care, and he won't get the government benefits. He won't get any other government subsidies. He won't be able to participate in some of the programs for individuals that have special needs or the challenges in, surviving emotionally and stuff like that. So all those benefits, many of those benefits will go away. Not quite all of them, but almost all of them will go away until he spends that money down. So he's going to spend it on his healthcare and his food and his, whatever he's going to spend money on normally, that's all going to have to be spent down. Then he's going to have to reapply to go back on this government assistance program that was set up for people like him to be able to survive on. So do the parents want to just kind of like give all their money to the government to subsidize a government program? No, they already do that. It's called taxes. So instead, what they can do is set up a special needs trust. So the way that works is you assign a successor trustee. And in this case, I was recommending sister his older sister, who is, financially responsible and doing well, she would become the successor trustee of the special needs trust. And then we put language in that special needs trust. This is really cool. Okay. We can put in language that says that the money in that trust can only be used to supplement his living, his life experiences. It can't be used to supplant government benefits. In other words, if that money was used to pay his rent, which the government is already paying because he's living, in a situation where the government is actually covering his rent because he's on Medi-Cal and they've had that worked out. If he now has enough money and he wants to pay more rent, so he does, that could potentially cause Medi-Cal to step out of the way and say, nope, you've got enough money. You've got this money available to you and you're using it for things that Medi-Cal would pay for. So we're going to disqualify you from Medi-Cal. So what you do is you put language in the trust that allows the trustee to spend money on behalf of the special needs beneficiary, not give it to him, because if the trustee gives him the money and it's more than $35, that money is going to default his right to have Medi-Cal. She can pay things on his behalf, like she could go and she could pay for his fuel or pay for his entertainment, pay for travel, pay for life experiences. We refer to them as life enhancement experiences. So she can take him to the museum or take him on a trip somewhere. All that money that's in that trust can be used to benefit the life, enhance the life and experiences of that special needs child, including it can pay for companion travel. So if sister or somebody else, sister decided was kind of okay to do that, sister as the successor trustee of the special needs trust could provide payment to pay for the airfare and the hotel and the things that go on during this, and basically send this the special needs brother on a vacation, something that would be a life enhancement, things that parents would have enjoyed him having. All that can be done with a special needs trust. Without it, the parents would do like some people do, and then they just give it all to their daughter and say, okay, honey, we want you to take care of your brother and we're leaving you all this money, and that's going to be, for you to take care of your brother with. So part of that is kind of an issue for me in that you're now giving money to your daughter and saying, this money is for your brother. So are you giving it to your daughter or is she holding it in trust? And if she's holding it in trust and the trust isn't a special needs trust with very specific conditions on how the money can be spent and how it shall not be spent, it's not considered a special needs trust. So is Medi-Cal going to come after him? Is there going to be some problem with that? I just don't like the idea of giving money, just say, here, you guys have all this money, take care of your brother. Does that cause a default in Medi-Cal? You got to be careful with that. Medi-Cal is becoming more and more, restrictive in how they can have money held for people. Living trusts, special needs trusts are the way to go, in my opinion. If you got questions on that, you can call me at the office, 855-500-TRUST. 855-500-TRUST. We do a lot of estate planning with special needs trusts. We can set up special needs trusts that stand on their own, completely independent. If you want to set up a special needs trust that is available for your own parents to put money into their, for your special needs child, you can do standalone. You can do a special needs trust that's just part of your trust itself. You can do it as a standalone. You can do it in a number of different ways. But that's kind of stuff we should talk about. If you have any issues with your kids not being able to handle their money in a big way, you can call me 855-500-TRUST. Okay, sister then, in this special needs trust situation, what you'd want to make sure that sister has a backup, right? If sister can't do it because she's sick or passes away or something happens that makes it so she's unable to work out, the being the successor trustee in that special needs trust, you want to make sure you have alternates planted in there so that your special needs son, in this case, can be taken care of for the rest of his life. Okay, so special needs trust, that's the way they work. Now, another way to deal with, another way I use special needs trust is not specifically what they're designed for. Let's say that you have a beneficiary, a child that just loves to spend money, like crazy loves to spend money. Every time he gets money, his friends help him spend it. And that may sound funny, but you know who I'm talking about. You have a kid that is super kind, friends are really nice friends and all that stuff, seemingly, and all of a sudden he's got an extra, $5,000, and suddenly it's just gone. Where did it go? Oh, Billy needed some money because he was setting up a website to make money, and I thought that was a good idea, and Billy spent the money and it didn't work. So, what surprises me still is when you leave too much money to a child, it's really not that they waste it. They don't do it on purpose. I mean, if the very large majority, they don't do it on purpose. If you're leaving money to a child and they're not financially mature, i.e., they are not willing to say no and be very forceful about saying no, they're going to be taken. That's really the bottom line. And I think it's sad, but it happens because when you have all of a sudden a big bank account, most people make it pretty obvious. Dad passed away and suddenly you got new clothes, or maybe you're driving a newer car or something. And so you start to talk, and next thing you know, people, i.e. your friends, know that you have money. And now all of a sudden your friends they want to party more. They want to spend more time with you. They have ideas on how you could spend your money. Come on, bro, let's do this thing. But that's what I see happens. I had a situation, this was many years ago. It was kind of a sad one, so I'll share it. We had a beneficiary. He was physically disabled, so he couldn't get around by himself. He had to have friends help him and that type of thing. And so he was really struggling to deal with friends, struggling to deal with, just trying to function in life. Really, really difficult. He could pretty much not live on his own. He'd have to have somebody taking care of him. Well, he inherited a bunch of money, which was a really wonderful thing. But then suddenly he had friends, like a bunch of friends that were willing to, hey, I'm happy to take care of you. I'll be your live-in caretaker person. And they started charging him money, and he was paying some of these caretakers. This is a long time ago, paying him a lot of money, in my opinion, like too much money. And then he was spending it on all kinds of these projects that he really wasn't involved in. So he had his quote friends that were really kind of taking advantage of him because he had all this money and he loved the attention because it was, you're stuck in a situation where you can't get around physically. You just have a struggle. You can't just hang out with the guys like normal. You got to be taken places, and people took advantage of him. It was really sad. The reason I know that was a problem is because when he ran out of money, all of his friends, these quote friends, just disappeared. They literally left him alone. And now we were trying to find a way to take care of him or have him taken care of. It was horrible. So they just, the money went away, and so did they. So that's how true their friends were. And that's what I think with, if you have beneficiaries that just don't have the financial savvy because they're young, maybe they're young beneficiaries. I never recommend giving money to like an 18 or 20 or 22-year-old kid, because inherited money falls out of the sky. That's the bottom line, right? It's not money that they had before. It's now way more than they had. And the sense of value just really isn't there. Not their fault. It just happens. So you can set up the special needs trust if you have a kid that just can't handle money at all, or you set up your regular trust and you can do distributions in there that make it so that they don't get money until they're 25 or 30 or they've gone to college. You can put these restrictions in there. Don't feel bad about doing that. It's your money. It's their life. And you're the one that knows what's best for them. So all those things can be set up in a trust. I'm happy to do it. 855-500-TRUST. If you have a trust that doesn't have some of these things that you'd like, maybe we can amend your trust. We don't have to redo it. Let's just amend it. Get your trust to say what you want it to say. 855-500-TRUST. We'll be back and talk about conversations with parents here on The Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. This broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
You're live.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome to The Word on Wealth. We talked about special needs trusts, and I do have lines open. I'm going to keep them open to the top of the hour. We will be with you all the way to the top of the hour. So give us a call. Please call me and ask your question. 888-344-1170. You can be anonymous. I'm not going to talk about you specifically unless you want to, but let's do it. We can keep it on the down low, but give me a call. 888-344-1170. I came up with five conversations to have with parents. I have a lot of kids. I say kids, but anyway, let's just say my age is kid age, right? So I have a lot of kids that will come in with their parents who are in their 80s, sometimes in their 90s, sometimes in their 70s. But the child is basically concerned about their parent getting an estate plan and having their affairs in order, just because it's important. And of course, as a child, you get a little nervous when parents are not really taking care of these things that you think are important and they may not think is quite as important, like doing a will or a trust. And I think right now, those of us that are in our 50s and 60s, I think we know it's important to have an estate plan. And I think the younger generations are really starting to come up with that. And like, hey, you know what, we really, with all the legal challenges there are and the way the government is set up and the way you can lose money or go to probate or have all these lawsuits or whatever, it's really good to plan ahead of time so you get your estate plan in order. And sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out what your parents have by way of estate plan. And it's difficult to get that information from them. Because a lot of times, our parents, like, us as parents, I'm a pretty proud guy. My dad was a very proud guy. He, was self-made. He did very well. He didn't want to tell people about how he did his financials because he did it himself and he expected that much out of his kids. And so it was like, it wasn't like I could go into dad and say, hey, Dad, how much money do you have in the bank or retirement accounts? Or is everything okay? I mean, my dad would be the guy that would say, don't worry about me, worry about yourself. And I think most parents are that way. Don't worry about me, worry about yourself. So I came up with 5 conversations or talks that we need to have with our parents. And I think the number one is the financial talk, which really is, do they have enough money to live on? If you're not worried about it because you just happen to know that everything's great, then then that financial conversation doesn't necessarily need to happen. But in like a situation where you're just not sure, dad's passed away, mom is still here, and you're not exactly sure where she's getting her money, how much money she has. You're a little concerned because she's being a little less careful with the way she dresses or the way she, takes care of stuff. And so that might give you some signals like, I wonder if mom's running out of money. Is she getting, just kind of letting things go? Or is she, because she just is not concerned about that anymore? Or is she running low on money and now she doesn't have, she's really struggling? So that talk is the one that's really difficult to have with parents. And what I found and what my clients have told me over the years is the only way to really have that conversation is to spend time with parents, to be with your mom and talk to her about regular stuff, and then kind of find out about, hey, so how is that going? And do you need, with your bank account, you talk to her about yours. I was noticing the other day that, Chase changed their rules on things, or, so where do you bank, Mom? what are your banking experiences? How do they treat, gray-haired people like you at your bank? Do they treat you okay? And then that, those, just try to think of things and be creative and be involved in your parents' life. If you're not, you will be, because if you're, I would say fortunate enough, if you're fortunate enough to have your parents pass away when they're old and they're done, but and they have their brain all the way to the very, very end. If you're fortunate enough to have that happen, fantastic. But a lot of people become incapacitated. They start to struggle with trying to figure out where their money is, how much they're spending, what they have left. So I'm telling you, if you don't have that conversation with your parents and know what's going on with them financially, you're going to end up having that conversation. And hopefully it's with a parent who now is not suffering from dementia or loss of memory or things like that. So financial talk. Number 2 is the healthcare talk. And really that's the question, like life support. Do you go straight at it? Depends on your relationship with your parents. Hey, Mom, if you're in a coma, do you want to be on life support or not? I mean, that's going to go over really well. If I said that to my mom, she'd say, mind your own business. I mean, my mom and I were really close, but that just wasn't something she wanted to talk about. So, I had to bring it up more delicately, in terms of, the older your parents are, the closer they are, the quote, closer they are to death, the less they want to talk about dying, usually. But you need to have that conversation. I just want to know, Mom, I want to know what you want. It just seems like it'd be awful to be on life support and be a vegetable and spend and waste all that money and energy. And then Mom says, oh, that would be awful. So Mom, is that, what are you thinking about that? Do you have anything to show that that's your intention? No, I really don't. Well, Mom, do you know, you probably have to have a document to legalize that so that we all know what your decisions are. Oh, you guys know what I want. True. But if we don't have that with us when we need it with a doctor, we're not going to be able to express your wishes. Oh, okay, fine. So some of it is kind of convincing your parents what they need, because if they don't have it, things get tougher, gets more expensive, gets more drawn out, gets a lot more stressful for those of us who are trying to make those decisions and help out parents. So healthcare talk is number 2. Number 3, and by the way, on the healthcare talk, they need a healthcare directive, financial power of attorney, healthcare directive, medical directive, physician's directive, end of life directive, whatever you want to call it. That's stuff that we do. Call me 855-500-TRUST. Let's work it out. Talk to your parents, make sure that they know what they're doing. Bring them in. Let's go through it. Number 3 is the aging talk. Okay. It's not like you go to Mom and say, hey, Mom, so can I put you in an old folks home? It's a good way to get disinherited, by the way. But, it's like, well, Mom, let's talk about your care. And I know you need me here more. No, I'm totally fine. Mom, I know you need me here because you fell down the other day and now I got to take care of you, and which is totally fine. But I want to know, I understand, you want to age at home and you want to be here for the rest of your life. And that's what I want for you too. But what if I can't care for you? What if there's not enough money? What are your thoughts? That's something you have to talk about. That's a hard one, because that's going to depend on money. And, staying at home, sometimes they can't afford it. So you got to, kind of steer around the issue of, are you being selfish? Because, as your mom going to say, you are being selfish because you just want my money when I die. Well, if those conversations start to happen, you got to change your approach, or maybe you almost waited too late. So that conversation, the aging talk, end of life talk. The end of life talk is it's not necessarily like the healthcare talk where we're trying to decide medical issues, medications, healthcare directive forms. The health talk is literally, what are you taking for medications? Help me understand that. The way that I've seen people do it is like, hey, I'm your kid. I've got your genes. And if you're taking statin drugs or something like that, I may need to do that. So I want to know what your health conditions are. My dad was good enough with me to do that, because he was like, okay, so I have an issue with my prostate, this and this and this, and you got the same genes I do. You better go get checked. And I appreciated that because, when my dad had prostate cancer, that's the last thing I was thinking about. I was a kid, man. I was just like, whatever, Dad, you're in your 60s. I'm in my 40s. I'm good to go. But that was kind of a shot across my bow. And so it's a conversation I'm glad I had. That's the healthcare talk. The end of life talk is, where do you want to be? If you're terminally ill, do you want to be on life support? How long? And those are the conversations you have. You can already see that all these things take time, being together, spending time together, bringing it up, not as an annoying thing, but piece by piece by piece by piece. Sometimes it can be quick. Sometimes it takes years. The family legacy talk is your 5th one. What do they want you to remember about them? Okay, this is the fun stuff. Sometimes this will break the ice. What I did with my dad is my wife got a book, and it was this red book. I can't remember the title. It's sitting on my desk. Now that my dad's passed, I got it back out, and it was kind of emotional. But it was this book, like, I just say, Dad, when I come over, can we just fill out a page? Sure, whatever. So I open it up, say, tell me about your friends in high school. Like, what? So they go back, and he started talking to me about Hoagie and Ronnie and all these. They have these funny names for kids back when my dad was a kid. So we'd go through this book and write the things down. that conversation, those conversations led to a lot of other conversations about healthcare desires and about end of life talks. And it really broke the ice because I wanted to know about him. And I wish I did it more. I wish I knew more about my dad, because now I have questions like, oh, I wonder about this. I wonder about that. Can't ask him anymore. But get these guidebooks, get these things, ask your parents. They like to talk about their life. We all do. So those are the 5 talks: financial talk, healthcare talk, aging talk, end of life talk, legacy talk. 80% of elderly folks don't have a financial plan that will last their life. Let's change that. 855-500-TRUST. Let's get their estate plan in order, get all that taken care of. 855-500-TRUST. I got an idea for you. When we come back, I've got something coming up. I want to give you a suggestion on how to have those talks with mom and dad coming up next, right here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Time for our favorite holiday.
Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500.
You're lying.
Happy Tuesday. All right, we're talking about talking to parents. This is Gary Quackenbush on the Word on Wealth from GQ Law. Luckily, my law firm is Trusting Tuesday, right? I love that. I love that. It is Trusting Tuesday. That's what I said with Marty Schneider like almost 10 years ago when I was on the air with him. Very cool. Hey, we are talking about talking to parents because I know so there's an interesting story. Okay, so we'll go back to me again. I know we talk about me, but that's, the big experiences that I've had in my life have involved me. I guess that's kind of obvious. So I was there. I was there for the big experiences I've had in my life. So it's just funny. I'm not being narcissistic. It's just like, just me. Anyway, I remember when my dad said, "Hey, Gary, he was out for his walk And I was going by to see him, and he's out for his walk. And as I was driving in, he sees me and he flags me down, and he got in my truck, and he said, just drive up here and pull over on the curb. I said, okay, what's up? He said, basically, I'm not getting any younger. And my dad, if you said OLD, if you said old, he would spell it out and say, don't use that word. And his doctor would say, I know your medical problems is called AGE. And he'd say, don't say that. So my dad didn't like to admit that he was getting older and whatever. So I remember this time he got in my truck and he said, pull over there. Let's just talk. And he said, you're going to be my successor trustee. Hope that's okay. That's just the way it is. Okay, Dad. And I want to talk to you about my financial situation. And so he started talking about it. It was literally the first time that he had just decided he wanted to just tell me all about it. And it was really touching because there's my dad telling me these things and how, where things are. And it was physically where things were. And I said, Dad, can I kind of have a standing appointment with you like every couple of months? I said, could I come by like once a month and we'll talk about it? And he says, that's way too much. I said, well, how often do you want to talk about it and kind of get me up to speed? He says, well, I want you to come into my office at home and I want to show you what's in each file cabinet and my books and stuff like that. I said, okay, let's talk about that, in 4 weeks from now. I said, okay. So we did that periodically through the last year or so of his life, but it was the last couple of years of his life. That's all it was. I'm glad he didn't die sooner because I would have really had a hard time being the trustee. But it was nice to have that talk. And so with my dad, it was really, I couldn't have it earlier than that. He didn't really want to talk about it. So I came up with 6 different rules to talk by. Now there was with my dad, it was nice that he kind of brought that up and literally got in my truck and said, go pull over, let's talk. I remember there was in the Star Trek movie, and you see this sometimes in movies where there's a big decision that needs to be made. And, so the main, and this was in the Star Trek movie where it was going to be this big disaster. And the Star Trek captain said, Kirk, walk with me. And they start walking because the captain had to go somewhere and something was going to happen to him, but walk with me. And the walk with me was, as we're moving forward, as we're walking down the halls, I want to tell you things that are very, very important, things that I need you to hear. So it's not like sitting down where ears can pry. It's let's walk so that if somebody does catch part of the conversation, they're not going to get enough of it to be like Snoopy. So I have these rules to talk by or rules to walk by when you're talking to mom or dad or both about their financial situation. Number 1, be patient. Goes without saying. People, as we age, we process things more slowly. I've seen people go, oh my gosh, Dad's getting senile. He's getting senile. So why do you think your dad's getting senile? Because he just, I asked him a question and I don't think he heard me. And then he answers later. I said, why do you think that's senility? That's called old ears, and your brain has to process things a little more slowly. It literally happens. They can actually measure as you get older. The doctors can measure the time between in the ear processing and response. And when you're little, it's like instantaneous response. It's like you're answering with a fully fledged answer before somebody's even done speaking. Well, as we get older, there's a time gap between somebody talking to you and you responding, because it just takes a little bit longer to process. Nothing wrong with you. It's not dementia. It's not Alzheimer's. It's not any problems. It's just, that's what happens. So being patient is really important. And if they get ticked off because they don't want to talk about their finances, then now's not the time. I mean, it's like with your teenagers. If you had teenage kids, you can't just sit them down and say, Bobby, what were you doing last night? I want to talk to you about your moral character, blah, blah, blah. And they're just going to roll their eyes and go, just get out of me, get away from my face. I think a lot of times what I had to do is I learned how to wakeboard, and I learned how to snowboard and rollerblade and do these different things that I'd never done before, because that's what my kids wanted to do. And those were the times when we got to talk. We're out wakeboarding. We're in the boat in the morning at, 5:30 in the morning or 6 o'clock on Saturday mornings, week after week after week, enjoying and learning together. And that's when we had our conversations. That's when I taught my kids moral values and learned about them and learned about their friends. And then we would invite their friends, and that's how you learn about them. You can't just sit them down and say, hey, tell me about your friends. And is this guy a good kid? With parents, it's the same thing. And it's hard when you live far away, but it's a matter of communication. You guys, as your parents' child, I believe it is our responsibility to help our parents get set up for the inevitable time when they pass away. I think it is our responsibility to do whatever it takes to put ourselves in a position to be able to talk to them about their financial situation. And no, it's your responsibility anyway. It's going to happen. So we might as well kind of make that a thing. You know, if you're mad at your dad all the time because he's really grumpy or grouchy, deal with it. I mean, sorry, this is just my life experience and my legal experience over like 35 years. Okay. So be patient. Number 2, keep other families up to date, you know, so that way they don't suspect secrecy or control or influence or isolation or all those different things. You know, if your sister is like meeting with your dad all the time and you're kind of going, what's going on? Say, hey, sis, bring me up to speed. What's going on with Pops? What's going on? And how can I help? And what I need to know, you know, just stay in the loop. And it's work. Yeah. And it's not comfortable sometimes. Understood. But if you're talking to your mom and dad, keep family members up to date. My siblings and we just said, hey, let's do this. Let's promise each other that when we talk to mom and dad about whatever's going on, that we'll share that. And it was really good. It was super helpful. We weren't perfect about it, but it was helpful. Keep notes, write things down. Don't think you're going to remember it. Write things down so that you remember them in 2 or 3 years when dad says, I never said that, or that's not what I meant, or whatever. Keep notes. Number 4, don't pressure. Let it be the time, go on a picnic, spend time together, do what they want, learn a skill, you know, do whatever your dad or mom wants to do so you can spend time with them, so you know that you love them and care and you're willing to be patient and understand what's going on. Number 5 is be empathetic. Those of you that are getting older, you start to realize, oh, I see why it took my dad longer to respond, because that's happening to me. Or I guess my dad wasn't going deaf because I'm not. I just have a harder time hearing somebody when there's background noise. So now I can empathize. Well, when you're younger, it's hard to empathize with an older person because you haven't been there. So just be patient, because it's going to happen to you. We all age, just happens. I know Google's trying to prevent that, but we still age. And the big thing is listen. Get them to talk, figure out how to get them to talk, listen, and you'll pick things up. It's just like raising teenagers. You've got to figure out ways to spend time with them. You got to set up the environment. You got to make it so that they're comfortable, they're happy. It's your job. So there's Gary's advice. Walk with me, rules to talk by. Be patient, keep other family members up to date, keep notes, don't pressure, empathize, and listen. That's the show for today, folks. Thank you for being along on the Word on Wealth. If you want to hear this again or talk about some of this, I'm happy to go over it with you. 855-500-TRUST. And I can amend your trust to put in provisions. I can make you a new trust. I can take your old trust and throw it in the trash and make a brand new one. We can set you up so that your trust is a retirement protection trust, like we talked about yesterday. We can get everything set up so that you will feel comfortable, that your estate plan is good, that your parents' estate plan is good. So give me a call, 855-500-TRUST. Mention that you heard the show and tell me about it, and we'll be able to talk to you, give you a free initial consultation. Tomorrow, super exciting. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We got Ken Pecos, real estate guru, talking to us tomorrow on the show. And Thursday, we've got Anthony Wright, financial guru. We got gurus, man. This show is about the word on wealth, whether it's real estate wealth, financial wealth, mental wealth. On Friday, we've got Finding Joy Friday. We got some super good guests lined up for Friday. It's a very exciting week. I'm glad you're sticking around. I'm glad you're coming along with us on this ride called the Word on Wealth. I'm glad you're one of our listeners and hope you keep listening. 855-500-TRUST is my number. If you need help, you got me and my law firm, GQ Law. We can help you out. 855-500-TRUST. Give us a call and see if we can answer your questions. All right, you guys. Other free stuff. If you want my free books, Living Trust Basics, Accidentally Self-Employed, The Tax Bankruptcy. They're free books on my website, gqlaw.com. You can get all kinds of stuff. GQ GQLAW, my website. Go to it, get my free stuff, and we'll respond to you. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Goodbye.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995, with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The